The champ is here.
We will definitely not shut up and dribble.
The champ is here. I must be the greatest. The champ is here.
I'm going to continue to stand with the people.
The champ is here.
I will not lose.
I'm a bad man. I shook up the world.
Yes. We're going to keep shaking up the world. Welcome. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you are here with we. My name is EJ, and I got my man.
Hey, mate.
He's the DB of the show. Maybe a little friction today. All right, man, we are Black in Sports, where we're giving a voice to the culture that won't shut up and dribble. Here, interviewing the best in the game while covering it all, laughing at all, and providing a platform to be heard. So, like what we do around this time, we want to welcome our guests here. So, born in the home of blues music, with others like Oprah Winfrey, Jerry Rice. So this primetime receiver turned professional trainer, all right? We have Deon Primetime Hodges in the house. Clap it up, boy, clap it up. All right, man. So, hey, how we like to start the show is we get right into it.
Ooh.
So we want to shoot your shot moment.
Ooh.
So this is when you went for it all, whether it was back on the field, where's after the ladies, just any time where you shot your shot and you went for it all. Give it to us.
Okay. First thing kind of jumps out to me was it was a decision I had to make. So back in 2014, at one of my training facilities back in Mississippi, I had some athletes that was in and were talking about a mission trip.
Okay.
And so we just kind of talking about ideas of what it would look like, and they mentioned going to South Africa, and I was like, okay, and was saying, well, who's all in? And no one really like stepped forward to commit to it. When planning a trip, it's like, oh yeah,
everybody's in.
we down, we
all in.
But then when it's time to buy the ticket, it was like,
That's me.
next time, I got you. So
When was we going again?
right, exactly. So it was a mission trip to South Africa, and I think it was 2014.
Wow.
And what was so unique about it was just that's when Ebola. That was it was all over the media. And this was my first, I didn't even have a passport.
Okay.
So after the conversation, I went applied. And yeah, so I just kind of jumped out front and was like, yo, I'm going.
We there.
And everybody was like, yeah, I'm gonna book mine. And so it turned out that I was one of the only people from the facility that ended up going.
Oh wow!
And talking to my mom, and she was like, "You gonna go over there?" And with all that going on, and I'm like, I'm trusting myself. It's like, hey, I made a decision. I gave my word. I'm gonna stick to it, and and that just turned into that first year, and then I ended up going 5 years in a row. So
oh wow,
that was one of the.
That's big time.
That's a definite shoot your shot moment.
Yeah.
Pandemic what?
right.
So where'd your love for sports start?
Definitely was a kid that grew up in sports. Family wise, I have one older brother. He really wasn't. He's not really into sport, but yeah, mom just kind of got me involved at a young age. Started out with flag football, different sports, basketball, baseball. Tried a little bit of everything, and as you being in Mississippi, as you get older, football becomes the main thing.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, well, you got to make a decision. And so I think back to like the 9th grade, I was like, doing the band thing. So I was I was percussion and attempting to learn a different art.
Drumline.
Right. And I remember transitioning to high school, and that was just. That was the thing, hey, you play ball, especially with the history of Moss Point High School with just kind of dominating the state for a couple years and state championships. It was like, that's something that you always looked up to,
right.
Just from elementary to middle school. I mean, it was to the point of getting checkouts to be at the game on Fridays. Like, that's the thing to do. So getting into high school, that was just it. So that's the first.
So Moss Point.
Yeah, Moss Point.
Representing.
Yeah, 228, man.
You guys had a lot of people come out of there too, man.
Yeah.
I mean, from back in the days to still.
No, definitely, man. Just like I said, it was just all about Tiger pride and just growing up in that. That was the biggest thing.
Uh-huh.
And football was just, just the dominant sport of the city. And yeah, man, it's just you always want to be a part of that.
And that's the majority that you had come out. Like when you're looking at now, you give who was it that came out to Devin, You had a couple basketball, but like when you looked at it, out of Moss Point in particular, a lot of football players.
No, definitely, man, and that's, I don't know, even just to this day, you know, we talk, you know, some of my high school teammates and some guys that went on to play with me in college. That's always just who we used to look up to, and you know, and now seeing them now and stuff like that. So,
That's dope.
and they, you know, always tying it to my career path now with the training and performance and stuff. So it's been good, man.
But a tough place there.
Definitely. Hey, it's a sink or swim type of thing.
Hey,
Man. So no,
strength,
definitely.
right?
Yeah. No, it's, you know, mom and dad can't get you on the field out there, man. You know, it's a different life.
Nice.
You ran track too, right?
I participated in track.
was you over? I participated in track as well. That's a kind of known fact.
You always hear that thing of, you know, coaches like, oh, if you're gonna do multiple sports, you know, run track, run track, and it's like, yo, like this is different. You know?
That's
so you know, I did the track thing. I'm gonna tell you a funny story. Just talking about track.
Let's go.
Kind of going out, you know, they identifying who's gonna run what, and so one day I'm kind of just, you know, bullshitting, and the math teacher, David Maxwell, he was a track coach or whatever, and I saw some of the old linemen down throwing the discus and the shot put, and so I go over and try it.
Hey, hold on, man. I just didn't like the way that came off.
Oh no.
That's what it was. No, you said it right the first time.
No harm in that. But yeah, so I was just kind of just, you know, trying it and end up throwing further than the guys he had over there working the drill. You know, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna try it. He was like, we'll see. Next track meet, you know, we need points. All right, cool. So I go out the next couple track meets, participate, finished third, fourth, going into what you call it, South State, and qualify for the state finals.
There you go.
Damn.
Yeah, so it was just the running thing was out the gate. I was like, oh yeah, I'll just show up and throw.
Over there on the barbecue.
Hey, welcome to the team.
Right.
Welcome to the family.
So
I love it.
On the grill over there.
And so I'm like, oh well, coach, I get a letter from my letterman and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm outside, man. Like, let's do it.
That's funny.
And so I
that's
ended up doing
crazy.
that and placing. I finished fourth in the state, and it was just funny just how that
Off
happened.
a humbug.
Yeah, just to do whatever.
That's wild.
So basketball too, then, right? Did you dabble in that as well?
Just a little bit, you know. Just, you know, you got to try and see it. You know, that's one thing I always embrace. Just give yourself a chance. So, so yeah, I played a little bit. Definitely wasn't one of the front runners, but I add some depth. You know, a little rotation or something.
Right.
That's what we talking about.
They give you 6 for a reason, right? So
Use them, baby.
Hey, so I
Can't take them to the next game.
did a little bit in that, but you know, you got some guys that really do basketball.
Right.
So it's like,
No.
okay, cool. Yeah.
That's
I'll be
funny.
over here.
So where did the name Primetime come from, and when did that come out?
I think it was just the easy play with Deon.
Deon.
And
Got
it
you.
was just like, you know, family would always kind of throw that around, and you know, certain coaches would always kind of just take to that. And,
Right.
You know, I don't know if they was like trying to compare the two, but you know, I'm gonna own it. You know, and that's kind of just where that came from. And like I said, family would mention that from time to time, and then through college, some of my teammates would have fun with that in the locker room and stuff.
Got you.
We touched on college. Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College.
Yep.
That's a lot.
Yep, that's a lot, man.
Natty champions 2007.
Let's go.
2007, man.
Kiss the ring.
Oh, let's give a feedback on that. So, so yeah.
Say it with your chest.
So in 2005, May 2005, spring practice, you know, normal high school rollout or whatever, I tore my ACL in practice in a scrimmage.
Mm.
And, you know, this is the time. This is finishing up junior year, going into senior year. Letters are rolling in.
Absolutely.
You know, everybody's kind of trying to fill themselves out of like, okay, well, I could really do this at the next level. And then boom, tear my ACL, and it's like, okay, so what do? You respond. And so I always tie that into, you know, one of the biggest adversities that I had to face that I feel like prepared me for life and as a man. And that happened, and then I had surgery later that May. Throughout summer, I'm you know, hey, I'm gonna get back because the Dr. Arthur Black said, you know, I think he's gonna miss your entire senior season, you know, because technology things there, it's like, oh, it's a full year recovery, so you'll miss. And so I'm grinding it out, kind of breaking the rules, you know, 2 or 3 times a day, just mom telling me not to drive, and I'm dealing with a lot of mental just from the neck up. Friends not coming by. It's like nobody's. I got a chip on my shoulder. Like, nah, man, they forgot about me. This and that. The letters stopped coming, and fast forward, August come. So it's like, okay, cool. I remember my birthday is August 26th. So I remember like going out with some friends to celebrate, and my mom called me and was like, "Hey, you need to come home and pack a bag." I'm like, for what? She's like, "This hurricane." It's like, oh, we've always
I was gonna ask you,
we do hurricanes. It's like, okay, cool. We're not running. We board up. Make sure nothing's in the yard. The dog is taken care of and things like that. And she was like, "Nah, I think this one here is a little different," which turned out to be Hurricane Katrina.
Yep.
And so we packed up and we went to visit family in Atlanta for a few weeks, man. And on top of dealing with a ACL surgery and this happened, and so I mean, I know a lot of people suffered from that storm, but delaying school and me rehabbing and to play, I'm not saying it happened because of me, but it was just like just looking at it, just finding a silver lining in it of, okay, school was delayed, and it's like, okay, we come back home, lost everything, no home, no home insurance, that type of thing, and so it was just adversity was introduced really early.
That's a big adversity.
And fast forward, end up playing my senior year, finishing up like second in receiving. Had to play a different position, went from receiver to like tight end because you just wasn't normal yet, so it's like, okay, I'm gonna buy in, and it was difficult too.
I'd imagine.
And so it was just a different role that was needed, and from there, transition, finished my senior year, and got a scholarship offer from Mississippi Gulf Coast, which at the time they had this thing called protected list. So if you lived in a certain county, if you went to a junior college, you had to go to that junior college that recruited that county. And it was like, well, no, I want to go to Pearl River. Pearl River was winning national championships, and Gulf Coast wasn't really known for that. They hadn't won a state championship in 20 years. I was like, okay, well, release me. I was supposed to be here anyway. I'm all on that of, if it wasn't because I got hurt, you hear that story all the time. So ended up being the best decision of my life, man.
Nice.
Got humbled, thinking that you're the man of your school, or and just going the junior college route, always, he had to go to JUCO because he didn't have grades and all these type of things, and that really wasn't it. But it was just another opportunity to play sports, play football, and first year kind of panned out, and second year my sophomore year we won it all, went 12-0, man, and had some lifelong friendships after that, man.
Kilgore.
We ran it up on Kilgore, man. Kilgore actually gave us the natty. I think we put 63 on it.
Yeah. And Kilgore's legit.
That's what you heard.
Exactly, because it was always like Kilgore, Blinn.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, it's a reason that it's like 8 JUCOs in Mississippi, and you got guys coming in from other programs, that
other places too, right?
It's like, this is we're expecting a fight. And, no disrespect, but
Talk about that comp in Mississippi. So, like I was telling you earlier, like I lived a little bit in Alabama after I graduated college. So, I knew about that. I learned a little bit about that competition in Alabama. So, I'm not saying Alabama and Mississippi the same thing, but just tell me about that comp in Mississippi.
I mean, it's it's a sink or swim community style. I really didn't learn to appreciate it until I went to college, and to see different backgrounds, different demographics, and it was like, we're just competing. Some people are like, back into the back of the line, like not really getting reps, coach looking for you, and it's like, hey man, like this is when we're gonna go again. You we go again. It was, you're used to competing in that environment, and it's blood in the water if you shy away from that. It's like, you get written off really quick of like, he don't want to compete, so
and then you people get at you when they see that.
It doesn't stop there. It goes into the locker room, and now we talking about it in class. And it's like I did this, and this is really before cell phones and things where
social media. And
so it's like,
right.
it's really about the talk. Like, I did this, and we went 1-on-1, and it's so it was just really that's another trait that I like I said, I didn't appreciate till later in life.
So hold on, then. Talking about competition, man. I saw your cut up.
Allegedly.
Man, who's number 8 checking you in your cut up, man?
number 8. this is the college.
Yeah,
practice,
man.
practice.
Your
No,
prac-
it's two number 8. So no disrespect.
No, okay.
Because
Well, but listen, hey,
in college you got the double numbers.
double
So it's
numbers.
like,
But I'm gonna just say you ate them up both equally, so it doesn't matter.
so one, he was definitely a guy front runner, face of the program, and then you had the other ones that was, and I'm nowhere near like just a premier guy, but that's one thing that I did take pride in and was competing, and yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. That's funny.
I was like, man, where did they get these? Like, is this people trying? Like,
Yeah,
I know it's
that's
a cut up. Like, I know it's your best, but like, they would either press you and then get burnt off the line, or they would give you space.
Man, I know exactly what I just
technique.
And mentally, it was just just thankful to have an opportunity, because it was like in that we was going into a situation with a new head coach.
Oh, okay.
Preferred walk on, and it's like you just want to show that you got talent, and I wasn't there to just participate in practice and say I played college ball. That was the dream. You turn down smaller D2 scholarship offers just to say that now seeing it later in life, it's like, well, I get it, but I always try to educate my guys a little differently now.
Sure.
Of like free education is key. So but yeah, I went that route and things was different.
Nice.
You pattern your game after anybody?
I was fans of different people. This is when YouTube started to boom.
Yeah,
It's like you're watching the highlights and everybody is you're looking at the Peter Ward, you're looking at Reggie Bush, and, like the cut ups, and it's like it's the YouTube hits.
Yes.
It's like so. I
Incorporate a little bit of this and like
right, and so me just knowing that you just have to play to your strengths, and you got some guys that are real life 4-3 type of guys, and I had to get everything right to get a 4-5, so I just had to understand what my strengths and my tool belt was, and that's one thing that, like I said, understanding that, I kind of just took a little bit from here and there, and was like, okay, well, if I can't outrun, I can win the release. I can leverage most DBs.
You damn sure can win that release, boy.
So it's like things like that. It's like, well, I have to win somewhere,
Right.
And most of the DBs were pretty fast, but I always say if you can't change direction, you might as well run track. And those are the things. And,
Very true.
I just kind of played to that, man. So to say that to answer your question, it was 1-2 particular people. It was just kind of just developing what I felt like I was good at. So.
Okay.
I like it. Go ahead and hit him with it, man.
Oh, okay. So this is like just 4 quick ones.
Okay, here we go.
Rick Ross or David Banner?
Come on, man. Rick Ross is born in Mississippi, right?
Mississippi, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Just from I can appreciate both.
Okay.
I would say that,
Wah,
but
wah.
I can appreciate both. But for his body of work, of course, Rick. But and that's no disrespect to David of his producing and everything else that he's engaged in after he kind of really made it to that platform. But on the day to day, what I'm jamming, it'll be Rick.
One-on-ones is it's an offensive drill, right?
Allegedly, to a DB is always it's like it's football.
Yeah. Definitely offensive drill. All right. You got to start one, bench one, you're going to cut one, okay?
Here we go.
Jerry Rice, Walter Payton, Brett Favre.
Okay.
All from Mississippi.
All from Mississippi.
I mean, you got Sweetness. He toting the rock. Jerry's body of work. I got to start Jerry. I bench Walter, and I have to release Brett.
Sorry, Brett.
I mean, nothing personal. He trigate things. He was a risk taker. So it's like, just seeing the game now. I would go. I would go with Jerry.
First time, if ever, you've been starstruck.
Starstruck. Oh, for sure. This was On the Run 2 in Philly.
Okay.
Me and my man Fletch, we were going up. I was going to train Fletch in Philly, and he was like, "Oh, On the Run 2's coming through." It's like, okay, cool. I'm thinking. It's like, yeah, I'll get some tickets.
Yeah.
I didn't know, Fletch being Fletch, he ended up getting passes to the Carter room.
Okay.
And I met Jay-Z, and it was like,
Yeah, it's different.
yeah, it was real different. It was thick, you didn't want to like stand out, you didn't want to ask for a picture, it's just kind of like act like you're supposed to be here, so yeah, no, if anything kind of stands out to that, that would be it. And
That would get me too, though.
that
That would get you.
Oh yeah.
yeah. So that handshake and that moment was definitely golden. And
Did you ask get invited to the barbecue that he has?
nah, man, I was just really just taking it in
Nah, that's dope,
and seeing
man.
him in his element. And yeah, so that's one that jumped out the most to me.
Man, I wish I could. So, because everybody, I've heard this a couple times. Jay-Z's couple guys, it's like starstruck moment, and mine was the dude from Allstate, like
Jake?
Quincy McCall's dad. Bro, I was starstruck.
Oh, Jake, stay funny, man. That's funny.
Yeah.
All right, so kind of getting into the career, you mentioned it right now, but before we kind of get into Fletch, how did you get into the training game? And was D1 your first, like full-time really getting into it, or how did you get into the game?
Okay. Yes. Finished up school in 2011, and from there was still pursuing the goal of playing at the next level. So you have tryouts here. You're trying to play arena, Canadian, just anything to get a start. And after a certain time, life kicks in of like, okay, well, what am I going to do?
Right.
And so the guy that I was actually training with, I asked him, could I intern with him? Since he had pro athletes around or whatever. And I just kind of owned that moment of, setting up drills, trying to understand the training, just because of the education, exercise science at the University of Southern Miss. A lot of things made sense. So it's like, okay, well, maybe this is the outlet for me. It's keeping me around the sport, the passion that I've had all my life. So yeah, just kind of stacking bricks off of that. And that was probably the intro to it. And then fast forward maybe a year and a half later, the general manager that D1 hired was from Southern Miss, and he knew some mutual friends, and he was like, we're building this facility. This is, in the process. And I'm like, okay, well, what do I have to do to apply or whatever? And he told me to send over a resume, and I was just, reached out to him, and he was like, this is the grand opening. And I'm like, okay, hey, I'll be there.
Yeah.
Actually, he brought me up for the grand opening, and from there, spent 2 weeks in a hotel, like just didn't have an apartment or anything. It was just, hey, I'm here. If you can help me out, take care of this apartment, which was the guy, general manager Lee Hall. And yeah, it kind of just started from there. And so D1 was my first opportunity outside of the interning with Sam down in Hattiesburg.
Oh, that's big.
It started off high school, college athletes, and pro athletes. Was all a mix, or
well, Sam was pretty known for the high school guys locally, but he had a cluster of pros that would come back and train with him, just because he had a relationship with a few agents locally.
Gotcha.
And they would always look for places to train that was under the radar kind of thing. And yeah, so it was kind of just a mixture, but interning with Sam was more with those guys, the pro guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how long were you there?
So the grand opening was May 2013, and I finished 5 years.
5 years.
Yep, 5 years.
And then you went to Dallas?
Yep, packed up, moved to Dallas. The main thing was as my career built in Jackson, starting to get around some of the pro guys. They were like, well, man, we love what you do, but this market ain't where it's at. It's like nightlife, just, I mean, we love it, but, you might want to think about just a bigger market and really, tap into your full potential versus just being limited on resources.
Right.
And I struggled with that a while, because it was like a thing of, oh, well, here's a guy that has reached its pinnacle and is leaving the state, or leaving the area where, I always tied to, with my mom, I'm like, well, could she afford to, get me this type of training? I wanted to be what I needed.
Okay.
Coming up as an athlete. And it was like, well, you always see the success stories of, oh yeah, I did this and then I moved.
Yeah.
So that really, that was a struggle point for me for a while. And then just understanding that I still had to go out and see the world and bring things back. And that's kind of how I'm looking at it now.
So who was really pushing you to make that change, right? Because like you started doing, so were you already working with Fletch at that time?
Yeah, I actually met Fletch. It's my first year at D1.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just kind of indirect. And Lee, I remember Lee was like, well, I think, it'll be a good matchup. Just see what it is. And,
right.
And things were pretty solid. And, he came back the following offseason. I was like, oh, shit.
like I'm doing something right?
and that just kind of built. And from some of the local high schools and things, started to get some of the premier guys. And from there, I actually had a full, cycle of guys from middle school, high school, and these guys are going to college, and now signing day is a big thing, and now I have a class of guys that my guys going to different colleges playing against each other, and it just built from there. But my first group of guys was from Jackson Academy. Jackson Academy was known, they racked up a couple state championships, and those are the first guys that give me an opportunity to do in the personal training performance stuff with them. And from there, man, it just built, and I met Fletch, and that just kind of kept building, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm a decent guy.
There you go.
So I saw kind of
here we
going
go
back a little bit, man. I saw it was just funny. I saw on your IG, I think it's your impersonation of Coach Daryl White. Wyatt.
Yeah, Daryl Wyatt.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So
man.
I know you only do that out of kind of like respect, obviously, for your coach.
Yeah.
So do you find yourself, I guess, sounding like him in some ways when you approach athletes? Or?
Man, I would say that's kind of been my MO. Like just personality wise, like I could pick up on things and kind of get demeanors, and
he didn't have lotion on his legs.
He would never have lotion, and so like we still talk about this too. Like that's the thing when we talk to our old coaches. The first thing you remember skit night when you got Coach Wyatt, and it's like, man, that's like a classic. And then so after you graduate, talk to some of the coaches, and they were like, man, it just hadn't been the same. Like that was like the pinnacle. But yeah, man. It was just funny, like just in real time of him coming into meetings, and we always notice, I'm like, yo, like it's just a couple, like just a little squig, man, like some Vaseline or something, and the players would never say it, and so we kind of got together. Austin Davis is my quarterback, which he's the QB coach with the Seattle Seahawks, and Austin was talking about a skit of just everybody kind of owning their position coach, and man, I took that and ran with it, and we let me do the intro at the end. Like, this is the finale. Okay, we've got everybody, worked out, and here comes Coach Wyatt. It's ashy, and he's short. So it's like, and there's no disrespect.
He's on your knees on the table.
Yeah. Nah, that was definitely one of the highlights that I think I still had that thing on DVD, man. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. But yeah, we talk about it, man. Yeah, okay. That's funny.
That is funny.
I mean, you did bring up Austin Davis, man. That was your QB, right?
Mm-hmm.
You had a standout game when you played. Who was it? South Carolina? Yeah.
I would say.
Well, I just know that they had a hell of a defensive backfield that you guys was going against.
Yeah, that was actually
probably one of the strongest, probably.
Yeah, that was I think the kickoff to the season. It was Thursday night. That's when the Thursday night football first jumped off, and like I said, me, coming to joining Southern Miss and learning multiple positions and not being a part of the recruiting class, you're just happy to be a part of the team and want to contribute in any fashion. So I remember that first game, and like my first official catch was against South Carolina, man, but they ran it up. It's funny, like looking back now, just with guys like Alshon Jeffrey, he being one of the guys that my business partner Steve worked with. And he was like, "Oh man, I gave y'all like 120," and now he's one of the guys that are helping us grow our brand. It's funny to see that. But I think Lattimore was like a freshman. He had like 4 touchdowns or something. Yeah. No, it was stacked. And Gilmore was the corner.
Stefan, and then DJ Swearinger.
Yeah, that was different, man.
They had a backfield back there for you.
Man, it was a stat game for sure for them, man.
All right, so let's do it, man. Let's name drop, man. So who are some of the guys that you currently work with or that you've worked with? And like, our audience does have a wide range, so make sure you tell them like what team they play for and stuff like that. So we talked about Fletcher Cox, who's with the Eagles, but who are some of the other guys you work with?
Well, locally, just from the Las Vegas market, John Abram. I have Tavarius Moore with the 49ers. I have Demarius Randall, which is also with the Raiders. I mean, it's a wide range. Jordan Thomas. It actually started out with the Mississippi core guys, and then those guys introduced me to other guys.
Yeah,
that's dope.
And so yeah, man, it's a wide range of guys that John was actually one of the kids I met, and I hate to say kid, but at the time was a kid that I started working with in high school, and to just see this thing kind of manifest.
Oh wow, that's beautiful.
Was a big deal. But yeah, it's a wide range from the Texans. Jordan Thomas. I'm trying to think of who else we have.
Cam.
Yeah, but got Cam. Cam was actually one of the kids that I probably spent the most time with in high school.
Oh, okay.
Just he had a coach that got me involved in pretty early, and he was already a dynamic
Out the
athlete.
gate.
So I never want to feel like I sound like I'm taking credit for anything. I'm just thankful to be a asset to
Right.
to
You just
most
put a
of these guys.
little cherry on top of that because he
Hey.
had everything else: cake,
Hey,
frosting,
listen,
the sprinkles.
He'd probably be right there where he's at today without me. So but just I always look at that as like one of the athletes I've probably spent the most time with, just because I had more time with him in high school, and to see him,
through the whole process,
I
right?
mean, from signing day to
Damn.
to the first state championship in school history, and then him becoming the number one running back in the country, and just being just to say I was affiliated, was a
Wow.
beautiful thing, and to see him get his name called this year, which I thought we would be here in Vegas for the draft, but
Yeah.
that was a big thing, man. So
we talked about that. Well, I was hot about that one.
I was still pressing him like, yo, you think they
You
still gonna do it?
right?
I mean, we're still gonna do the Bellagio thing, right?
Right.
They gonna cancel the draft, but yeah, man, that was a little heartbreaking to not have that to a city that I was thinking about moving to. So
Right.
So yeah.
So talk to me about putting a plan together for the athlete. I know you played obviously on the outside and the receiver,
Mhm.
and I know you work. with Fletcher's obviously inside.
Yeah, internal. Yeah.
So just how that process works of just putting the plan together for
I
the
think,
athlete.
man, for me personally, is just meeting guys where they're at and understanding the level that they're playing on.
Gotcha.
Wow, that's dope.
So it's like, yeah, I've never played defensive line, but it's like, okay, well, I'm looking at the movements. I educate myself by asking questions to
Okay.
other D-line coaches. I speak with their strength coach that they have for the team. And kind of
Okay.
saying, hey, well, this is, what can I help this guy with?
Okay.
How can I be an asset to the franchise or to the organization? But you have a wide range of it. But I really try not to get into the skill specific things, just because it's like it's oversaturated.
Yeah.
Like,
that
I don't think
makes
you can.
sense.
I don't think you can swipe 2 times on Instagram where it's like not this crazy like drill.
And I was going to ask you about those things.
Yeah, like
man.
Bleacher Report, picking up on something crazy, and it's like, oh, this is the thing to do, and it's like,
Yeah.
less is more for me, and so
Okay.
that's one reason that I really focus on the weight room and the movements,
Okay.
just basic movement. When I always look at it as when you get back to your position coach, it's like, damn, he's moving different, he looks different, it's a different motor, it's a different car. And that's one thing that I really hammer home. I try not to get out and compete with the gurus and this way and
Like
my
that.
philosophy, just because I feel like it's a rat race. Less is more. My main thing is, are you being productive? And you can't be productive if you're not healthy. And that's my main thing. Like, are you healthy? Let's identify some of the struggle areas. Let's make your bad good and your good great.
And you've also told me that recovery is just as big as a part of your training.
Yeah,
and that
no.
you really spend a lot of time with that.
Yeah,
Oh, that's a key component, I guess.
No, definitely. Just the education component of from the neck up of knowing as you get older in your career, it's like,
Right.
okay, well, what's going to keep me around?
Gotcha.
And I'm not saying everybody's goal is to play 10 years or,
Right.
some, even speaking with the high school kids of like, hey, what are you doing, far as nutrition wise, just educating the parents on certain things. And, in today's like society, everything is like wanting to be overnight of like, oh, well, I'm just going to go supplement. Like
Sure.
this kid is in middle school, just eat, and it's those things of just, hey, let's not put the cart before the horse of
Right.
like, okay, well, just make sure that we're eating consistently. We're not coming into the gym with an empty stomach. We're hydrating, and then we just kind of build it from there. So my main thing is meeting them where they're at, and if it's middle school, high school, just educating the parents and the athlete. And as the guys progress through college, most of the college programs have everything pretty much covered, and you just want to hammer it in when they're with you, just so it's no drop off when they get like, what the hell did you do all off season?
Right.
That type of thing. And then with the pros, you just got to assume that they know nothing. That was a big thing for me of like, you see this guy and it's like, oh, he's this pick or he's that and he's accomplished this, and it's like,
Right.
well, and then you see certain lifts or certain movements, and it's like, hey, don't be afraid, insert yourself. Like,
Right.
I just want to educate you. And if
Sure.
they take, most great players want to be coached no matter
Yeah.
what. And that's one thing that I take personal of, like, just understanding whether it's middle school to the all pro. Hey, I have some staples. I'm gonna meet you where you're at, but this is what I suggest, and we just build it out from there.
I like that. Yeah. When it comes to, you know, a lot of guys are, you know, they have their brand that's
Mhm.
attached to them. Obviously, as athletes, you can go down to high school. I mean, athletes now
definitely.
got brands, and, you know, and sometimes I don't know if they want to show themselves training. Are there guys now that are just still like private with what they doing in the off season, or is it more part of their brand to kind of
It's
show
a little
everybody?
bit of both. Some guys really buy into a lifestyle of
Okay.
like, oh, I'm doing this, and you know, I was here last night, but I'm over here doing this. And then you have some guys that, you know, just they want to pop out. It's like, oh, he
Yeah.
looks different, he's moving different,
Gotcha.
and so you just have to balance the
Balance.
two. And like I said, just understanding once you have certain conversations of, okay, well, this is pretty much his mindset of it, and you respect the privacy of it, because you think about it, most of these guys when they're out in public, you know, they can't have dinner, or you know, the simple run to Target is like you're always getting harassed, and so
Yeah.
the last thing I want to do is add a camera to your face,
Correct.
you know, unless we talk about it on the front end of like, okay, we're going to capture some content and we'll do it that way. But yeah, you have a little bit of both.
Oh, okay.
So has anything or much changed since you got your degree, right? Since you started, and you mentioned a little bit about this, but like I remember like there was when we were coming up, plyometrics was the thing, right? Then speed, and then it was lifting, and then it was so how have things changed, and then how do you adapt to those things?
I would say from educational, continuing education component, things, the evolution of it is, you know, month in, month out is something new, or this is the best way to do that.
Wow, okay.
So you just always have to stay sharp. You know, I've had a mentor over the last year that was always
That's
you know,
big.
about the room of like just staying sharp and staying on top of things of, you know, even if you don't consider it, just hear it out for the most part. You know, have a filtering process.
Or just
But-
have it in your tool bag for when you need to pull it out, right?
Exactly. And so, you know, you just always want to educate yourself in that light. So no, it's definitely technology, tracking, data, you know, analytics.
That is big, right?
You know, and that's a selling point too. You know,
Okay.
especially when you're dealing with parents, or with just to bring it home mentally for an athlete of, hey, this is where you started, this is the number, then this is what we have now. You know, just to build a progression. But yeah, it's a lot of fluff out there too. So you just have to take it for what it is, and be open to the, you know, evolution of training and all the other technology components.
Got it.
Saw a tweet that you said like how you get them to maximize potential, maximizing your potential.
Yeah.
How do you got a wide range of athletes, and
Mhm.
their potentials obviously are different all across the board.
Yeah.
How do you get them to hone in on what their potential is and not maybe what the next person's is and things of that nature?
That's for me, when I tap into that with a different athlete or even a team setting. I don't know. It's just like I'm always interrogating indirectly, just of, oh, well, this is how he responds to this. You know, I always, like I said, go back to my main statement of meeting players where they're at. This is what he feels like is important to him, and then finding those little tender spots. Of like, oh, you know, I share an article, I share a picture, I share some comments from, you know, some of the reporters, or
Right.
the expectations from a media standpoint, and then from there, just whatever I feel like that they take personal. You know, whether it's I had a professional athlete that was not selected as team captain, but he felt like he was the locker room.
Yeah.
And so, you know, one off season we poked at that of like, you know, yeah, you say you're the man, but
That's dope.
your team thinks different. You know, that's interesting. And I, you know,
Yeah.
but let me go on to the next set. You know, I'm just throwing these little things
That's
out
that
there.
Mississippi.
That's quite interesting right there. But yeah, you the man.
That's that mouthpiece. Hey, you gotta push them buttons, right?
And
Hey.
from there, so it's like finding those little, you know, triggers, you know, in a respectable manner.
Yeah. I like that.
And then just going from there, man. So that's always a question of how do you keep certain guys motivated, because most, you know, some guys do achieve some big things, and it's
Yeah.
like, well, how do you come back to the drawing board, stay humble? You know, what do you want your legacy to be? How do you want this thing to end? You know, oh, they say you're getting old. You know, 30 in the league is like, oh, you're on your way out. You know, so it's like
classic.
So it's
Right.
like those type of things.
OG, what up, OG?
Right. Oh, I'm a vet now. So it's like, you know, just understanding where they're at in their career, and you know, and just finding something to keep fighting for and staying sharp.
That's what. So, with your training, and you touched on it, but if you could give us a little more of a understanding, when you're working out with these guys as their personal guy, how is the relationship with the teams, right? Because you're like Tom Brady, he has his own TB12, his own guy,
Yeah.
right? So how is that relationship? And I know off the cuff it's different with all teams, right?
No, definitely.
But how do you navigate that?
My main thing is always coming in to add value. Any way that I could add value. It's never about, oh, this is my guy and this is what we do. It's like,
Right.
you know, this is your investment. If if you would allow me to, you know, continue to work with this guy, you know, throughout the season or whatever the case may be, you know, how could I help? You know, and I feel like inclusion is key. If I include you of, okay, well, this is what we've been doing. Do you suggest something different? You know, and just meeting teams where they're at of like, okay, well, this is what our off season look like. This is where we feel like he struggles, you know, and that's just indirect conversations. It's not like some official sit down and like, you know, with the
building that rapport and just kind of going in.
Here we go. Yeah.
Right. So it's just those conversations of knowing, you know, I always go into it of knowing that I know nothing.
There you go.
And just always wanting to add value.
Cool. All right, man. Well, let's get into the winner's circle, man. Your platform. Talk about all the next great things you got going on. So, I mean, you're training here locally, right?
Yes, sir.
So talk to us about what the goal is here. And, you know, you're local. You're a local now. You just moved to Vegas, man, but you hit the ground running.
Yeah. My first couple weeks, it was just kind of just analyzing. And I don't feel like I've fully got the full Vegas effect yet, just with the city, you know, maneuvering a certain way with the pandemic and things.
You got the heat, though.
The heat did come. But just really just taking it in and actually, you know, no pun intended, but checking the temperature of the city of like, well, this is the lane. You know, I always tie it to like some of the gyms I've seen is like more fitness, you know, pool party type of, you know, I'm ready for summer. Like I've had a few guys tell me like, yo, I'm usually like on my grind, you know, but the pool's not open. So it's like, okay.
Kill my motivation.
So just understanding from that component, from a business standpoint, and then also just evaluating local talent in local high schools. You know, indirectly, some guys say, oh, this school has, you know, a lot of things pretty much figured out.
Yeah.
But, you know, you have this school over here that, you know, could use someone like, you know, like yourself to, you know, help them take things to the next level. So I'm really just analyzing it all and just want to keep stacking bricks.
I like it.
What's the I guess the end goal?
End goal for me is ownership. But it's funny. I had a guy ask me that a few years back, and my reply to him was, I feel like what I want to do hadn't been created yet.
Ooh,
you know, and I don't know what that looks like full big picture wise, but
Yeah.
I'm open to innovation and getting away from the traditional approach of, you know, when you dabble in the corporate side of things, it's like, oh, you have to be here for this and you have to have this meeting, and I'm like, yo, FaceTime me, you know. Or, I want to go to the game on Sunday. I have to fly here. It's like I have to fly back for this 8 a.m. meeting,
Right.
you know, to sit and talk about some numbers that we could have looked at, you know. So it's
Yeah.
like those type of things that I just didn't want to be confined to just a you know, no disrespect, just a paper chaser.
sure.
In that sense of paperwork and just this cubicle lifestyle. So I'm still building that out mentally and,
Nice.
and spiritually letting that lead the way. But I'm always open to, just non-traditional routes. I think that's a challenge. I think for the most part, we as a society kind of follow the same templates for most, you know, and it's like, oh, well, you did it this way. I got to do it this way. It's like, well, how can I make that more efficient? You know, and if I'm looking at it from that way, I know I'm still being creative. You know, and that's when you say end goal, to bring that all together. I wanted to, maybe it changes every year, you know, far as the business model of it.
Right.
But yeah, still trying to figure that out and leaning on guys that are more knowledgeable on the business side of things. Thought about a flagship location, but someone has to manage that. Someone has to run that.
Yeah.
You know, are you the guy that's never in the building but pops up? It's like, nah, that's not it either. So yeah, just still trying to figure that out, man. But
That's a daily, like you said, yearly, monthly kind of thing too, as well, right?
and just being open. It's almost like the move to Vegas. It was a conversation, and it's like, oh, I just signed this lease, but okay, let's break the lease. And
I was on your helmet about it too.
I know, it's like, let's break the lease.
I was
And
like, get your ass here.
okay, you know, and I'm just open to it. You know, I talked with my mom about it, and she was like, well, you don't know anybody. And I was like,
You ain't tell her I know E.
right.
EJ there.
And it was the same conversation from Dallas, leaving Mississippi, going to Dallas. And, you know, she was just always open to like, worst case scenario. You know how
Parents,
so,
yeah.
And
It's
that's
like-
a mama. That's a mom. You know what I'm saying?
And so I respect it for that, but it was just that conversation of, you know what? I always tie it back to that trip to South Africa. It was like, well, I didn't know anyone. That was my first time leaving the country, and then like you have the Ebola situation was taking place. I'm like,
That's
you know
crazy.
what? Like I'm gonna own the situation. The moment I could read, I can write. I got a debit card. It's like, hey, worst case, we'll figure something out. And
Right.
so yeah, it's always FIO, man.
So one of the things you mentioned to me is that you want to get back to. I didn't. So when you said that to me, when you said EJ, one of the things I definitely want to talk about is get back to Africa.
Mhm.
You didn't tell me you went 5 times.
Yeah.
But the question I do have for you is, was one of those trips you started a program with D1 called? It was like a D1 for Hope,
Yeah.
and you did the lift-a-thon and stuff like that.
Yep.
It was Restoration Hope.
Well, Restoration Hope was our partner.
Got
and,
you, okay.
And so they had some of their board members that was training at the facility,
Mhm.
and we had the trip, and I was like, well, once we kind of got back and processed everything that that you've just witnessed, it's like, well, how can I be a part of it? How can I add value?
Right.
And the main thing was like finances of like, oh, well, everyone wants to go, but it's like to book that trip,
The shots,
yeah,
the-
it's like.
Everything you got to do to get there, right?
Yeah, so it's like, well, how can you contribute to that, and then also having financials to contribute to that community. And it's like, okay, well, I look around and it's like, what do I have athletes, I have parents and relationships, so it's like, well, how about we host an event and let people sponsor their favorite coach or whoever they train with, and we'll do a per pound thing, and whether you just want to give from your heart or you really want to. You had some people that was on top of it, like, yo, I want to double what I paid, and that just kept growing, and we look up and it was 5 years later, man.
That's amazing.
Something that, man, about you that I've kind of noticed just through this talk, man, is there's in this world there's not a lot of listeners,
Mhm.
and you've said repeatedly, like, I want to add value
Mhm.
to what you're doing.
Mhm.
How big of a quality or important just the listening skill is for what you do?
Listening is a talent, because everyone just wants
Yeah.
chatty patties is what we say. It's
Yeah,
like everybody just
chatty
want
patties.
to add to just talk. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yo, like at some point it's like a light bulb, like you're wasting my time. Like you're just rambling right now. Like you have no intent behind what you're saying.
Right.
Or you're, and I get it. You have casual conversations, but that's one thing that I take personal of. If I'm telling you something, I want you to process it. And same thing for me. If you're telling me something, I don't want to revisit it and be like, oh, I told you this already, but you're not listening. So, and that's just a part of being in the business side of things as well. Because
Okay.
it's like, you profile a little bit,
Yeah.
of like, okay, well, I could take this person serious, because you also get the people, man, I want to come in and grind it out and I want to train 5 times a week, and then you don't see them anymore. It's like, it's a balance to it. So, yeah, you just kind of build those social skills of filtering out who's really being serious, or
Who's on the bullshit?
or just who just want to be affiliated and say, oh yeah, I was up here and I saw this, so so yeah, man, that was my main thing of just taking in information, and what I do with it,
Mhm.
it's on me of how I process it, and I don't want to say the eyeball test, but it's like, the eye test is serious.
It is for real.
But you also can, you can hear a lot of stuff too if you just shut up. Yeah.
Love it. Love that
I
all
love it.
day. So, you were developing a market out here. So there's 2 things you want to do. Is you don't have that name because you said you got started because you were that homegrown hero that went off and did things, and you
Mhm.
you kind of were ingratiated with that community.
Mhm.
So now you're getting ingratiated with a new community here in Las Vegas.
Mhm.
Although you're training high level athletes.
Decent athlete.
Look, is that you poking the buttons right there?
Just a little bit.
Right, they're gonna hear that he poking the buttons right there, right? Pushing their buttons.
They're decent.
So if a high school player, their parents, how do they, know to come to you, or feel like that it's not uncomfortable, or that, that weekend warrior,
Mhm.
what are you, putting out there for them, or do you even want to work with them?
No, I feel like that's where you start at.
Okay.
I always want to go back to the, like, what's going to keep me sharp? Like mentally, I never want to feel like I've arrived or I'm at this and I can't work with this demographic. Just because I always tie it to my childhood of like, if I was this kid, what would I need at this moment?
That's dope.
Even from social skills of how to communicate, or the demeanor from parents and athletes of like, well, what could I do? So,
Right.
I'm really looking forward to the city opening back up, schools opening back up, so you can, beat the grounds again. It's almost like mixtape hustling for me. Like that's how I look at it.
Got it out the trunk.
Yeah, I'm pulling up at the
High
the
school,
games.
the games.
Like, I'm serious. Like that's if I look at the bigger picture of it, it's like, well, how did I get to this point of what I call, somewhat successful? It's like, well, whether it's a middle school game on a Tuesday or Thursday, it's the Friday night lights approach, or just, hey, I'm gonna drive up to see you play on Saturday. Just showing interest.
Yeah.
You get a chance to meet and greet other family members, and you just become a familiar face, and that's just kind of what I'm looking forward to in this market as well, of just, in all sports, because sometimes even in women's sports, it's always neglected. Most of the time, football is always taken care of.
Right.
Like, everybody wants to be a part of that, and I'm sure it's a little different here with different sports, with basketball or whatever. But I always try to identify which market can I add value to, and once you kind of make that your staple, it's like, oh, by the way, I do train other sports or general pop. You have mom and dad, siblings that want to actually train as well. Like, hey, maybe it's not from a sports background, but it's just from a quality of life. Like, how can I improve life?
Some physical goals that they want to reach.
Of course.
So you kind of feel like you kind of have that same energy about going to Southern Miss and proving yourself, and this kind of applying it to,
of course, because I always take it as I feel I don't have the big name. I wasn't the first round this or the All-American here, so it's like I'm literally just want to show what I could do, and an opportunity is the biggest thing. So it's like, I know if I can get in front of you and get you into my element, hey, the rest will take care of itself. Yeah.
So you have this image, right? And it's a persona that's kind of pushed by trainers, right? Like you get them aggressive trainers. Like my man J. Cole was at Rutgers, and he was at the Colts and whatever.
Uh-huh.
He's now in Minnesota, but he fits that persona, right? Yelling, aggressive. The UNLV guy right now with the beard, he's at it. You're definitely not that.
No.
Unless you don't, like, when we interact, it's always this is what I get.
Yeah.
So is your model more of like a Phil Jackson? You kind of like a
man. I'm glad you said that.
You push. You kind of get philosophical with them
from the neck up, man. Like you have to figure out what triggers from the neck up, and then also meeting guys with that. So I just finished reading Phil's book, The 11 Rings.
Oh, okay.
Like, and that's one thing that always stood out. Like, I'm studying the coaches. Like, I get the player is the main source, but it's like, well, who actually harnessed in this talent,
right,
or brought this group together? And so you always just want to educate yourself on mindfulness training of like, okay, well, he responds to this, or some guys you can bust their ass and they respond. Some are back out. So it's like, well, you just have to have a different tool. It's a tool belt of like, okay,
what you can throw at them, huh?
Yeah. So there's some times that you get a little ratchet, but for the most part, it's always just looking at it of like, okay, this is what I feel like he responds to.
Right.
This is what I've noticed. So it's always observing, taking in information just from that social media, how to engage with other people. And once you spend a lot of time with people, I mean, you'll start to see how they think. And,
right.
And like I said, I always find some type of trigger point to get the message home.
Yeah, somebody tearing up, man. You know when you get real mad, frustrated, you get that little tear.
You trying to hold it back,
and that makes it worse. It's like, oh, he's upset.
Oh, I got him.
Uh-oh.
Like, got him.
Hey, guys, back up. He's a little upset, and it's like, well, So yeah, man, it's like, it's funny. It came up during the hooping today. It was like, one guy who just kind of got under his skin. It was like, oh, he's rattled. He's rattled everybody. His game is done.
He come down shooting.
And then, right?
Pulling up. Clear it out. Clear it out.
I mean, Wendy's 4 for 4. I mean, he's dropping them. But we got a reaction out of it. And you tie that into the training because you spend, like I said, in those elements. And it's like, okay, cool. Well, this is what I have to do. So, yeah, you get written off as an asshole or something. But, I mean, it's never personal. Never personal.
Bro,
because I say it with love. For sure. If I say it, it's with love.
To this day, man, I had a high school coach. He told me I was playing receiver in high school. He was like, Miles, I can cover you from the third row. But he like demonstrated himself, like, excuse me, like stepping over people in the bleachers, like, yeah. And I still think about that man today when I
Yeah.
feel I'm
It,
like,
it scarred you.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
He's like, really?
No, you have some highlights, man. It's like you have those coaches that have no filter,
Yeah.
and then you have some that's more of a business approach. Oh, we're gonna go in a different direction. Yeah, that means your ass not playing.
I got Coach Walford, and I'll never forget what he said to me, and I'm not going to repeat on the air because he came at me and he was in my head from day one. Walking in, like before we put on pads, you coming in and was a stud, preseason, all of that stuff.
Yeah,
And he made me feel itty bitty when I walked in the room.
He started with the light skin thing.
No, he did.
Oh wow! Oh,
No, he
that's
did.
slick shade right there. Like you've been saving that one over.
Yeah, no, I get it every show. Tell him to take his hat off though.
Ooh. Well, I'm not too far from it. This lighting is not doing me any justice
No,
right now.
lighting.
That's why I keep rubbing my head. Like, yeah.
Like you just rub it down a little bit. All right, man. We're getting close to wrapping up. You've done a lot with, you talk about the youth and you do give back a lot. Are you looking to bring any camps or do any camps like once we get back to some type of, regulatory kind of thing where we can get out and do those things? Are you looking to do that? And then also, you had a pretty decent flag squad or just a travel squad you worked with, 707.
Of course. No, yeah, as far as the camp components,
Uh-huh.
no, that's one way that, you talk to your athletes about using their platform, and then you want to add value as well of like, oh, hey, this is going to only trickle down to me, whether they're performing with their team or they're coming to you for personal training or, personal things as far as training. But yeah, that's definitely some of the things that I'm looking forward to. It's just when you're in a new market, you already have the gurus or the people that already have things on lock, allegedly.
Supposedly.
So it's like
Allegedly.
you just can't come in.
Yeah.
I'm always asking questions, and you could tell from the demeanor if it's being receptive.
Right.
Of, well, yeah, we're doing this, and then some guys that just don't want you included at all. It's just instant, like wall up. So I think the community component for me is always key of just getting to the grassroots levels of, hey, this is who I am. Let me know if I can be of service to you. And then from there, just kind of building it out, whether it's with little brother, little sister, mom, dad, anything to get, that rolling. And then once you show and you see a change, whether it's physical or performance wise, I mean, everything else handles itself.
Yep.
Awesome, man. Is there anything we can do to support you? And then definitely just we have your social handles on the screen, but definitely want you to pump those out. But is there anything that we can do to support you?
Things that come to mind right away is maybe a session with you guys, like getting you guys in the building, kind of seeing where we at. I think that's the first thing. Just so
I'm sensitive, so I'm gonna be mad.
I'm gonna be mad too. I'm just gonna put that out there, Mr. Miyagi. So,
like I said, I say it with love.
okay,
yeah.
I will do it, but I want to see you two do a one-on-one though. I'd like to see that.
Of course, we'll make that happen. However, I'm open.
I mean,
I'm open. I'm open to whatever that looks like. Whether it's
it looked good.
Uh-oh. We got some
chicken,
smoke. We got some
barbecue
smoke.
chicken. I see. I get it, man. I like it.
Oh, we
It
got
looks
some
good over
smoke.
here.
So you heard it here. So we're gonna get Miles. We're gonna get you on that one-on-one to see if them DB skills are still good. We're gonna see how you still got that release.
Yeah. We have to get content from this now.
Oh, we gonna get that film.
But for sure. Like,
It don't go away.
Yeah.
It don't go away.
All right, man. So, last bit of the show, man. We asked for you to give us assist, drop an assist, man, or drop a dime, a jewel, just something that you would share with our younger listeners, or just your younger self, or just a mantra that you live by. So, man, a quote, inspirational, just something that drop them gems.
I feel like I've been saying it throughout the show, and it's always meeting people where they're at, whether it's in a social setting, whether it's in a competitive setting, whatever. It's like, I want to apply myself to understand you first before I pass any judgment or come off a certain way. So just meeting people where they're at and understanding that, they never, most of the time none of us have it all figured out. But if you could just hear them out and share some knowledge and then just kind of let them make their choice. So always meeting people where they're at. I'm very observing. So it's like, that's just plays into it. I sit there. I think I was here 2 hours early, like just peeping out the scene. I didn't know what I was walking into, but I'm
you're
like,
just okay.
Because I know if you're showing up late, you're reactive. Like
Right.
you miss details when you're just kind of like checking a box or just thinking you're just gonna pull up to a situation and it goes playing. So I'm always expecting the bullshit.
Yep.
You know,
I
no
like
matter
it.
what. So
I like it.
I don't even know if I can curse on here, but
Yeah,
Nah,
you're good.
I mean, I'm about 4 or 5 in already. So,
No, you're good.
but yeah, so just kind of expecting, you know, things to not go as planned.
Uh-huh.
I like that.
That's one thing that helps me. Like, you know, I always do that for like the airport. It's like I'm expecting traffic. I'm expecting TSA to like, you know, just I'm expecting
Scream
something to
bag.
go.
There's
yeah,
always something,
something
right?
to go wrong, or I forgot this or whatever. So it's like if I'm going into it like that, I'm never gonna fluster in
Dope
a sense.
stuff.
Yeah. So
All right, man. So give us your social handles.
_D Hodge or _D Hodges on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. I'm really not into the Snapchat world. Like, I mean, we have most of the athletes do it, but yeah, my main outlets are Twitter and Instagram. I try to keep things a little positive.
All right, man. Well, hey, man, thank you so much, man. Enjoyed having you on.
Nah, I love it,
Absolutely.
man. Just to y'all brought up some stuff, man. Coach Wyatt,
Coach Wyatt with the Ashley.
that did it, man.
Hey, well, we want to thank you all for listening, man. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please follow us on Black in Sports on all your social media platforms. And then hit that subscribe button on YouTube, man. And please know that we're on Spotify, Apple, Google, iHeart, you name it, we're there. And just remember, we're rooting for you.
Screaming, all us blacks got is sports and entertainment until we even.
Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yeah. Yeah. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yo. Look. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Spent about 2 racks on handmade new rags. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. That's everybody from sports to college class to rap.